Hey guys, Dynamax246 here. Everything is canon. If you're a Sonic fan, I'm sure you heard of that phrase. We've been through a huge change lately. Before, there's been multiple continuities through different sources outside the canon games, such as the comics, the shows, other media, etc. Although this apparently confused people, including young me who wasn't aware of different continuities. It wasn't until I was introduced to Black Rock Shooter where I discovered that different continuities can even be a thing. I wasn't the brightest kid. But even with that information, it was still intriguing to know that there are multiple Sonics doing their own thing. I didn't really appreciate this concept enough until it was far too late. Around the time of Sonic Forces, Sega thought this was a stupid idea and basically made sure that there's only one united continuity. So anything that happens, like say in Sonic Prime, also happened in the games, and the same can be said for the IDW comics. People consider this a good thing, because now we have a tightly knit universe, free from confusion, right? Well, there are a few problems. Okay, big problems. First of all, it's mostly a personal thing for me. The Archie Sonic comics was prematurely cancelled. Like, it'd be one thing if it ended, but it didn't even get the chance to do it on their own terms. Because Sega got too salty of Archie and you-know-who to even give the Archie fans one last thing, like, say, reaching 300 issues. I felt like they could have waited a little longer to reach that milestone and add more to their longest-reigning comic book series, another accolade. It basically tells us that Sega's too embarrassed of the 200 issues of history they allowed Archie to make. In which case, I guess I can't blame them, but it was going through a major redemption arc thanks to a certain someone you made into a writer in one of your games. And what makes it worse is that they already rebooted the universe to make it like the games anyways. It barely reached the 100 issues and you're not even gonna give Flynn and the people who came up with this new continuity a chance? But no, throw away everyone's hard work and ideas, cause that's pretty much Sega's way of thinking, sabotaging for no reason. Sorry, I kind of derailed. I should move on to problems that are more objective. So, like the comics, the cartoons also have their own vision and ideas they want to do. And more often than not, they tend to stray from the games a little. Like, say, making Sonic Bugs Bunny and live in a more Looney Tunes realm, whereas Sonic has siblings and form a band. Or Sonic and his gang hangs out with some rich brat as he gets involved in the game's events. And that's not mentioning how much each writer depicts the characters as more exaggerated or have traits that you just don't see in the games. So even if Sonic X is the closest to the games compared to the cartoons before it, there is still some details that muddies the canon. That is not even mentioning how Eggman develops his robots and their designs. And you know what? That's okay. The different spins on the Sonic universe I feel helps bring creativity to the world we already know in the games. The Fleetway comics I feel has the most changes, and it brings bizarre but intriguing stories that aren't limited to the confines of the games themselves. Even when Sonic Adventure was around. Archie does have a rocky way of handling the events of the games admittingly, but it was fortunate enough to jump in when it was beginning to get a hold of itself. And whatever you feel about the pre-reboot Archie, you have to admit the post-reboot era did make things a bit more streamlined and easier to follow, while adding in as much content from other continuities into it, like the loony world of Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. If it stayed a bit longer, who knows what old idea they could bring back. But it also made sure the game's timeline is also intact for this comic's new continuity. Now don't get me wrong, it ain't gonna be connected to the games. Archie is American and Japan makes the games, so there isn't gonna be much synergy out of it. Although I argue, should there be? I mean, we're doing just fine before. Other franchises don't feel the need to unite their continuities due to confusion. Hell, the Sonic movie couldn't be any more different from the game's history and no one has a problem with it. Yet, I can't help but feel like we're only one Twitter post away from all of it changing, even though it makes absolutely no sense. I mean, it happened with Sonic Prime. Yeah, it's no secret that no one is buying the canonicity of Sonic Prime, with its depiction of Sonic being too much of a departure of the hero we know. And also how unsatisfied certain fans were for the IDW counterpart, me included. Something none of us would complain about if they weren't the same canon to the games. No one complained about Archie Sonic not being canon because we knew better, and if we didn't, then we learned eventually. The same thing's going on with the movie and the main counterpart anyways. Comics, games, and shows are all different mediums with their own different experiences and perks. This kind of format only limits what future writers and creators could do for the characters. The Sonic movies are interesting due to their unique way of building the Sonic universe. Why can't the IDW comics be like that too? Or why can't Sonic Prime be like that? It only invites criticism and people not taking any of the product seriously. And why? Because the post where it says everything is canon. From what I've seen, people assume that post means the Sonic multiverse is real and everything from Sonic's past still matters. Well, if that's the case, where's the return of the Archie Sonic gang? Where is any sign of the old cartoons? Any sign of Fleetway? I don't exactly buy the everything is canon if they're trying so hard to make one canon absolute. The Dragon Ball series does the everything is canon thing better than Sonic does, because they actually acknowledge the old and controversial stuff in Dragon Ball Heroes with GT. No one liked GT, yet they seem to be making a comeback because Heroes revitalized them. Best we get are fan continuations of both Archie and Fleetway. But yeah, they're fan-made. The only things we get from Sega is them not taking them down. Lastly, it just feels blatantly corporate. Like, the beginning of the Sonic IDW comics essentially followed up on Sonic Forces. Not exactly a good start considering how the game is. But it becomes even worse once it brings out its most ambitious arc yet, the Metal Virus Saga, where the entire world is suffering through a worldwide pandemic. I think with this worldwide crisis, Sonic and friends would travel around the world to save as much people as they can, while the virus takes more of the populace. But the only places from the games we see is Sunset Heights, from Sonic Forces. Unleashed introduced countries and continents, yet we barely get a named city. I still don't understand how they completely ignore lore from their own games. Well, I can think of one. Forces is a recent game. Unleashed is more than a decade old. I know for a fact Flynn would have used the Unleashed locations. He already did it in the post-Genesis Archie days. Heck, Flynn thought of the Metal Virus arc as early as the post-Genesis days. He just moved it to the IDW comics. Imagine how much more impactful this would be for the Archie comics, with the characters trying to handle this kind of hardship, while the IDW cast isn't really as developed compared to the Archie cast. It did have its moments, but I feel it could have been better if it had more time to cook than just blasting everyone this early on. Now, if all that sounds like big problems, I'm sure you're wondering how I would solve all this. Well, it's simple. The Archie comics was admittedly a bit too different and bizarre for new readers to truly get into. It had to end sometime. Once it rebooted, though, I felt it had the perfect continuity to work with. Basically the game universe with some additions. It depicts the world pretty well due to taking it a lot from Sonic Unleashed. However, their take on Unleashed was pretty much very different from the games. That much is true. Although it does give spins that only a comic book can do. And considering the meta-era games, I feel people would appreciate a more story-driven takes on the likes of Sonic Colors, Lost World, and especially Forces. Is it different? Yeah, but it's there for the comic book readers who aren't feeling the game's own stories, or just the major Sonic fans who want more out of the franchise. Sonic Prime can also be free to do its own thing as well. People might ask, what if people get restless over the fact that the comic book exclusive characters aren't in the games? Well, if they ask hard enough, they can be introduced in a later date, or have a nod to their game counterparts. But if they never show up, it's not the end of the world. I do feel this could lead to major crossover potential. If we're gonna apply it to the everything is canon here, then the comics can also bring in the cartoons such as Adventure, Underground, X, Prime. But you know what? I think I'll save this for another video. This kind of stuff I can talk about for a long time, but not right now. Now, even if you aren't sold on this, even you have to admit, it would have prevented the disappointment that was the 900th Adventure issue. The Japanese being stubborn about how they want Sonic to be shows how out of touch they are with the series. Communication is key, and they should have gone that right since the 90s. And it's not the worst case where their communication got them in deep hedgehog droppings. Need I mention Sonic X-Stream? It's clear to see that Sega aren't all-knowing gods who knows best, otherwise they wouldn't be selling their own games to other consoles now. They should have learned by now that being stubborn with their rules only makes things worse. Hopefully a paradigm shift is coming within the ranks of both Japanese and American Sega, so we can see more older stuff we knew back in the day. It seems to be happening as we speak with Ian Flynn as head writer of the games after making the best Archie Sonic stories. One can hope, because we're looking at endless possibilities here. We shouldn't be afraid of jumping into all of it. With that said, thank you for listening. Stay safe, and this is Dynamite X246, signing out.